at 10.
Reaction tonight to new recommendations from the Texas Education Agency. The first steps being readied to return your students to classrooms. And a COVID activity risk list receiving criticism.
There are a lot of decisions being made and a lot of misinformation, frankly.
What we discovered when we looked into how doctors came up with the list. And our top story tonight, the Texas Education Agency releasing those guidelines for getting students across the state back to school this fall. It is a 9-page guide. It lists both recommendations and requirements for a number of scenarios that include online as well as in-person instruction and transportation.
It also requires teachers and staff to self-screen for COVID-19, and that includes temperature checks and monitoring themselves for symptoms. School systems may consider screening students for COVID-19 as well. And right now, the governor's orders requiring masks in public when you can't socially distance will apply to schools. So that does mean adults and students 10 and up will have to wear masks. But if the order is changed, school districts can still make masks a requirement. Tonight, the Bandera County judge, Nelson Wolff, talked about that.
Schools are going to have to be just like employers. They're going to have to make sure that that's being done. They're going to be on the front line of this issue just like employers have been.
Now, the assistant city manager and interim director for Metro Health tonight, Colleen Bridger, she is calling that mask requirement at schools a good start.
While the TEA lays out best practices for opening schools, one teacher association says schools shouldn't open at all. We have team coverage tonight. I looked into their concerns for you and into what you can expect once school starts.
I'm definitely concerned. I'm a teacher, I'm a parent.
This NISD teacher, just one of many, worried about what the school year will look like. Tonight, much anticipated guidance has come down from the Texas Education Agency. Masks will be required on campus except during sports or exercise. The agency recommends sanitizer in every classroom, desks spaced 6 feet apart, dividers placed between bathroom sinks and cafeteria seats, and staggered start and end times for the day. The TEA also saying students can do either virtual or on-campus learning. Switching between the two is an option, but will be limited. Hutchison says he worries about the kids' safety, but says if they're distance learning, they're not getting the social and emotional benefits of school.
I can't shake the kids' hands. I can't high five them when they come into class. All those little things that I think a lot of people take for granted. That show how teachers care about kids. So the students that are in the classroom, how often am I going to see them? Are they going to alternate days? I'm going to go from a class of 26 kids to a class of 12.
But despite the guidelines, the Texas State Teachers Association is very concerned, asking Governor Abbott to, quote, slow down and put safety first. They don't want schools to reopen until the pandemic subsides. Also saying in part, quote, the governor reopened restaurants, bars, gyms, and other businesses too soon, and the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations soared. We can't afford to let that happen in our schools. Millions of lives are at stake. And you can take a look at the full 9 pages of guidance from the Texas Education Agency on our website, news4sa.com.
We continue now with more team coverage. We've looked at what they want schools to do about masks, about social distancing, cleaning, teaching methods. And now, what about transportation? Well, the TEA has a number of suggestions on how to get your kids to school and back safely. And tonight, News 4 San Antonio's Darian Trotter talked with a parent who says these suggestions are not practical.
There's a lot of people over here that do not have cars. There's a lot of kids that have to ride the bus, and the bus is not safe for people to ride right now.
Melissa Harnish, not mincing words about the Texas Education Agency's plan to reopen schools. Detailed guidelines include safety recommendations for school buses to help prevent the spread of coronavirus. Among the 4 transportation recommendations, school systems are asked to consider hand sanitizer be used for students and staff boarding the bus, and when possible, windows should be open to allow outside air circulation.
I think it's too hot to have the windows down in Texas. They just put bus air conditioners on these buses a few years back.
Parents are encouraged to drop students off, carpool, or have students walk to school to reduce possible exposure on buses. Harnish doesn't like that recommendation either. either. Here's why.
We're not supposed to be hanging out with people that don't live in our homes, so I don't think carpooling is going to solve some issues. We're going to be close contact with people that we don't share a home with.
The fourth and final recommendation is to have buses thoroughly cleaned with the windows opened after each bus trip, focusing on high-touch surfaces, seats, steering wheels, knobs, and door handles.
It's too much.
Right now, there are no clear plans, but Harnish doesn't think the responsibility should fall on bus drivers.
It's hard enough and stressful enough to make sure you get a bus full of kids to school safely.
Based on her current knowledge of plans to reopen schools, she's uncomfortable.
My children are going to stay home where it's safe.
Darian Trotter, News 4, San Antonio.
And we reached out to 18 school districts and are waiting to hear back as they finish developing their plans. We did hear from Judson ISD. It's offering 3 options: face-to-face instruction, virtual instruction, and a combination of the two. The second model would stagger schedules and alternate between in-person and virtual learning.
Right now, health officials have 778 brand new cases to deal with here in Bandera County. The total now, 15,880 since the start of the pandemic. Also tonight, there are 5 new deaths to report here. Those victims include 4 women in their 80s and a man in his 70s.
Well, good evening. I'm Robert Price with a warning tonight from a Seguin family that's just been devastated by COVID-19. Tonight, we spoke to Ruben Vela using video chat since right now he is under mandatory isolation with the virus. His elderly father, Juan, is in the hospital with it, and his older brother, Mike, sadly just passed away from it over the 4th of July weekend. Now he's on a mission in honor of his brother.
I'm trying to start this movement called Masks for Mike. I don't want y'all to go through the pain that we're going through right now.
Ruben says he still hasn't even told his father about Mike's passing. He's afraid his dad might give up his own fight once he finds out. However, and this is good news, we're being told the 78-year-old is showing improvement ever since receiving convalescent plasma. If you'd like to learn more about Ruben's face mask campaign, you can go to our website. We posted information about it. Just look for this story at news4sa.com. Back to you.
All right, Robert, thank you for sharing that story. And we do have new information tonight on a risk list released by the Texas Medical Association. It assigns a rating to activities that some experts say carry either a higher or lower chance of COVID-19 contraction. Camilla Rambaldi from our sister station Fox San Antonio looked into the background of the study and found the list was developed with no data behind it.
Irene, good evening to you. The Texas Medical Association tells us the rankings were made by 14 Texas medical experts, including infectious disease specialists and physicians. Their responses assumed people would be participating in the activities listed while practicing all of the COVID safety guidelines.
Where would that hardcore data be? We've never had a pandemic situation like this before. So a lot of these experts, especially the public health, I mean, they have data of sorts to look at, but it doesn't necessarily apply directly or exactly to this. So it has to be partly assumption.
Dr. Diana Fite says she thinks the chart is very accurate.
I think it's very helpful for people to see this. A lot of people are visual just to be able to see the various activities.
The Texas Restaurant Association is challenging the chart, requesting data, not doctors' opinions. The chart lists dining inside restaurants at risk level 7.
One of our biggest concerns right now is that there are a lot of decisions being made and a lot of misinformation, frankly, based on anecdotes and not data.
Tonight, the Texas Restaurant Association is asking that every restaurant post what's required to keep customers safe at their entrances. And we have a link to all of that information on news4sanantonio.com. Back to you.
25% of the patients that are in the hospitals are coming from outside of Bandera County.
That is Judge Nelson Wolff tonight. And tonight also, Dr. Paul Hancock, who's the Chief Medical Officer of Methodist Healthcare, added some context to that data. He says while rural areas are less affected because of their smaller populations, they also always rely heavily on hospitals here in San Antonio to help them with any specialized treatments.
One rural area that doesn't seem too concerned about COVID is Bandera County. News 4 San Antonio's Alejandra Guzman spent the day up in the cowboy capital today, where they're opting out of the governor's mask order.
I don't think I put on a mask once here. I see some people wearing the masks. We don't if we don't have to.
Paul and Dennis Cook rode into Bandera for a quick stay from Kansas City and quickly learned they do not have to wear a mask. County Judge Richard Evans filed an exemption for the governor's order because they do not have more than 20 active COVID-19 cases.
Do you feel that it's still safe enough for the residents of Bandera County to not wear a mask?
I think our numbers prove that our citizens have been very responsible in what they do with social distancing.
Today, Bandera County is currently reporting 9 active COVID-19 cases. Because of this, residents and tourists are not required to wear face coverings while they're out and about. We did speak with one local business owner who says it might be a good idea.
I think it would be a wise idea at this point, simply because so many counties around us have hit that mark. And a lot of the people that come here are from the surrounding counties.
Nancy's immune system is compromised. She was diagnosed with cancer. She's taking precautions for herself, but not enforcing it within Spirits of Texas, her store.
We give the customers the option.
Okay.
It's whatever they're comfortable doing.
This is what we saw while out on Main Street. The majority of those wearing masks were tourists. When we tried speaking to locals, it was a heated topic they did not want to discuss on camera. Judge Evans says it's up to everyone to be personally responsible to slow the spread, as scheduled events will go on.
That's a bigger circle. If they canceled every event in Bandera, I think this town slowly but surely would shut down. There would be very few businesses that would survive.
Alejandra Guzman, News 4 San Antonio.
It's especially sneaky that we try to take it around the corner too.
A tow truck company here cutting corners to make sure they get away with your car. What our undercover investigation revealed and how officials are hoping to stop it.
And what the city is changing to make sure COVID contact tracers can make contact with you. How officials plan to get you to answer the phone.